Yeah, hi Ritesh. This is Shipra.
Hi, Shubhra.
Yeah, I'm one of the volunteers for your session.
Good to meet you.
Okay, thanks. Same here. So Ritesh, will you like to have a timer kind of a thing?
Yes, that will be helpful.
So I just request you to please have a look at the session chat window. So
Okay.
after around 40, then by the end of 45 minutes, your session will be ending. So at
Sure.
the so by the end of 40 minutes, I'll just give you uh, another clock timer kind of a thing on the chat window.
Sure. Sure.
And I think I have another volunteer with me, Vijaya. So Vijaya and myself.
Hi,
Hi.
Vijaya. Good to meet you.
Hi. Good to meet you too, Ritesh.
So hi, Ram Mohan, me, Shipra Agarwal.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can hear
Yes,
you.
Ram.
Hi, Ramohan. I am Vijaya.
Hi, Vijay. Are you able to hear me?
Yes. Loud and clear.
Great. Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
So Ram will be volunteers for your session.
Great.
And
Thank you.
yeah, so for timer, we'll be giving the, by the end of 40 minutes, we'll be saying 5 minutes left in your session chat window.
Sure.
Ram, why does it appear that you are sitting inside a wardrobe?
I think I'm sitting in like in the intersection of the walls.
Oh, I thought you were hiding from the kids, right? Don't disturb me.
It's still a reason, but it's exactly the intersection of the walls.
Right. Yeah, it appears so.
All right, so I think I'll be starting with the introduction.
Sure.
Sure.
Okay. So a very good evening, and I welcome you all to this session on Backlog Smells. So before we start, I would just like to share that you can use the session chat windows to post all your questions. So, and as the time permits, our speakers will try to answer as many questions as they can post the session. And it's a great pleasure for me to introduce our speakers for today's session, Ram Mohan Jayaraman and Ritesh Marotra. Ram Mohan Jayaraman is a senior and one of the seasoned agile practitioners. And Ritesh Marotra is a principal technologist with Singapore Airlines and is a keen contributor on agile transformation initiatives. So now, without taking much of the time, I'd like to hand over to our speakers.
Thank you very much, Shubhra. Ram, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ritesh. Thank you, Shipra. Let me share my screen. Able to see my screen? Can someone confirm?
But it's
Thank
still
you.
small.
Is it still?
It's still not maximized.
Well, I see it's maximized here. It's maximized in my system. Is there any separate settings?
Uh,
I'll reshare again to see. Maybe I'll share application instead of window. How about now?
Ram,
Just
we
double
have a.
click on.
Yeah.
Sorry, Ritesh. So Ram, just double click on the video and then it will appear big for you. Full screen.
1 minute. Double click on the. Okay.
On the presentation.
Okay. Maybe try again. Is it okay? You're able to see my screen?
Oh, it's still small.
I think it is full screen now. Let's.
Yeah, I think I was able to double click. So
Yeah.
you could go back to the presentation mode, I guess.
Okay. How about now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, full screen. Okay, thank you. Thanks for the confirmation and wonderful introduction, Shipram. Good day, all. I hope everyone is looking forward to a fun-filled and a learning weekend. Myself and Ritesh are quite excited to commence your learning journey with our section about product backlog smell. Um, let's start with a quick introduction. I know we have been introduced already, but one more key thing that I want to talk about, Ritesh. I mean, we have been working together for last couple of years. Singapore. And I know Ritesh for a couple of years, and he's quite tech savvy and involved in agile transformation, working closely with developers, helping to write clean code. He also coaches the product owners and executives in the agile journey. One key thing about Ritesh is he runs a community meetup for Agile, which has got more than 2,500, 3,000 subscribers, called as Tech Talk. So I'm quite excited to share my learnings along with Ritesh in this journey.
Wow, those are very kind words, Ram. Thank you so very much. Yes, as you rightly said, it's been quite a while. I and Ram talking together, and we are really honored to be here and be able to sort of meet you all. I know Ram, in our engagements together with Y Innovation, as a very passionate coach and trainer with rich experience in organizational transformation, management and leadership coaching. And I can fairly say I learned a fair bit from him, and I look forward to continue our journey of learning together and with all of you here. So yeah, great. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you. So this is our agenda for today. It's more of talking about a little bit recap of what is a product backlog and the role of a product owner. On it because I think Roman Pictures is a 1 hour session about that, and we'll cover different smells in the product backlog. That's the agenda of this talk, and followed by a Q&A. Right. A quick recap of what a product backlog and product owner is all about. Product backlog is basically an order list of everything that is needed in the product, which means that if you want something in your product and if it is there in the product backlog item, then there is a probability that it might get completed. But if it's not present in your product backlog item, then you can be assured yourself that it's not going to be completed. That's everything needed in the product, in the product. And single source of requirement, which means that it can be a defect, it can be a feature, technical spikes, refactoring, anything. It can be anything that is associated with the product. Last but not the least, it's never complete. It constantly evolves. This evolution can be triggered by a market situation, maybe a fierce competition, or any organization change. And who is the owner of this product backlog? It's nothing but the product owner, who is the sole responsible for managing the product backlog and also ensuring that these backlog items are understood by the development team. So it's a very high level introduction to product backlog and product owner. And I'm going to turn it over to Ritesh, who will help you to feel the smell better.
Ram, you know what? The guy in the picture here, I think he's the only guy that I know who glamorized the sense of smell with his famous quote, if you smell what rock is cooking. But although he never shared what he was cooking. Any which ways, let me draw your attention to the sense of smell. Smell is one of the senses through which our brain perceives information. It prompts our brain to take actions. For instance, if I take you to a room with a distinct odd smell, your brain will immediately recognize that odd smell and will prompt you to probe where the smell is coming from. On the other hand, if I leave you in that room for a while without taking any action, After some time, your brain will automatically adapt to that smell and you will stop noticing it unless someone else walks into the room and reminds you about it. The same thing happens to us at work. When at first we notice odd behaviors, practices, anti-patterns, but as time passes, and if nothing is done about it, we just get used to it. And we don't realize it unless somebody from outside reminds us of those anti-patterns. In our role as change agents over the years, we interact with multiple teams to help them identify and improve their ways of working and their practices. And we constantly look for rooms with such smells. One such room is product backlog. And today, we'll be sharing the different smells that we have consistently seen in the product backlogs and the reasons behind those smells and what can you do about it. But before we go there, I want you to know the consequences of not addressing these smells. The teams who fail to address smells face these consequences. Let's see, Ram, what consequences you might face. Your product backlog becomes hard to organize over a period of time, and you lose focus of the customer value. Your backlog turns into a feature factory where you're just pushing feature but not delivering value. And at the end, while it might appear to you that you are practicing a Scrum, in fact, you may not be. And you will always probably have that sense of, being an agile team, but in the background with all the smells that you never noticed or did not address, it might just hurt you really bad and with your agility efforts that you're putting through. So let's look forward what the smells are. Ram?
Thank you. So we get into this first smell, which is the backlog hogwash. And the tagline is old is gold, but not always. Um, Anybody can guess what this smell is all about? Can anyone take a guess? Ritesh, if you see any chats, would you mind?
Sure, I am on it.
Yeah, I'm not able to see the chat windows right now. I'm sharing. Sorry.
So Ram, it's suggesting missing in feature maybe.
Okay, missing features. All right.
Or technical debt, or
Okay,
too long backlog,
good, good. Too long backlog. Good.
spillovers.
Maybe the tagline can help them better. Old is gold, but not always. That's a trick. That's a clue. Great. Unfortunately, not able to. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, we will do it someday. Items.
Okay, we'll do some quite close. Yeah, quite close. Yeah, we'll discuss that now. Thanks for all those feedbacks and messages. I wish I could have seen those messages by my eyes, but anyway, I've heard it, so it's good. Before we jump onto the, before we jump onto the actual explanation about the smell, let's do a quick Menti poll, right? Maybe you can scan the QR code, or you can go to menti.com and type in 725542, or you can use the URL, whatever it is. You have three options: scan the QR code, or go to menti.com and then type 725542. It talks about the question is, how old is your oldest product backlog item in your backlog? You will have a couple of options there. Let me switch and then see if I'm able to see the poll results coming in. Oh, great. I see people are polling in now. Let's give them a few seconds. right. We have 24 people with the poll. Let's see how it looks like. Wow, that's interesting. Not sure whether you're able to see. Can you, Ritesh, or someone can confirm me whether you're able to see the results?
Yet we see the presentation, Ram.
Oh, okay. I don't want to switch and and then create a mess. So what I see is 11 people said their product oldest uh, product backlog item is um, less than 3 months, and 11 people said another 11 people said 3 months to 9 months, and four said it's 9 to 18 months, and two said it's more than 18 months. Looks like a good mix. I mean, almost 70% of it's less than 9 months, which is a good ratio. But let me explain my story. Okay, I hope you're able to see my screen now. Are you able to see this, Nitish?
See a large building, a Burj Khalifa.
Great, yeah. That's what I want people to see. All right. So what is this backlog hogwash? Backlog hogwash is nothing but represents the hundreds of product backlog items, which is lying in your product backlog for a very longer duration, and nobody really knows of why it is there and what is the purpose of these product backlog items. 2 years ago, when I was consulting a bank in Hong Kong, when I stepped in for this consulting assignment, I looked at their Jira and was totally shocked. It had got 2,000 product backlog items in the product backlog, and the oldest one was sometime like 5-6 years. So since 2012, there were items that is lying in the product backlog, right? And when I asked the product owner or the team why it is there, no answers. There is no answer. And can we remove this? Product owner was like, oh, yeah, but we spent time in writing this and we don't know whether it's going to reappear. So these are some of the conversations that happen when we are trying to look at these product backlog items. Yeah, it's, as you can see, your product backlog is, when you stack up your product backlog item in your backlog, it should not be a competition to your to the world's largest building. I mean, the Burj Khalifa, right? And this is one thing that we recently took from one of my consulting engagements. You can see the cumulative flow diagram. What it shows is perhaps until end of 2019, there is the people are able to turn out the product backlog items into increment. But something happened in the early 2020. There is a gush of product backlog items coming into the backlog, but team is still able to deliver only certain amount, and this backlog keeps on growing, right? So this is something like you can see just takes away people's focus. The increased queue time is naturally a deterrent for people to focus on what they need to work upon. You might also know this, right? I mean, the Cavos report reports that only 60% of the features are used by 60% of the features are not used by the customers, right? Which means that only 40 to 50% is what used by the customers. As a result of this, if you as a product owner, ideally speaking, your backlog may contain this 50 to 60%. Again, it's an ideal situation, right? But you can always have this in your mind when you get your items into the product backlog, right? Because increase in the queue length is naturally makes people to lose focus, right? What I do is, I mean, I just got this wild imagination when I see this kind of backlog items in the product backlog. What should we do about it? I remember this Bogi, which is a festival that is celebrated in southern part of India, right? Every year in the month of January. The purpose of this festival is to discard the old items, which is not valuable to you. Just remove or you just throw away this old items, right? And then what you do is you concentrate on bringing those new items or things which is going to create some change or transformation in your life. That's the purpose of this particular festival. You can have a similar festival in other cultures as well. They call it as spring cleaning. There are numerous things, but I think every year in certain cultures and in almost all cultures, we do this activity, right? People burn their old items and then that are not useful. Of course, we are not actually asking people to burn their product backlog, but as an action to this numerous product backlog, you can consider pruning your product backlog regularly, which means remove old and invaluable things from your product backlog. Review your strategy, evaluate your product backlog items, and figure it out whether they are aligned with the product roadmap and strategy. And last but not least, you can always coach your product owner to say that one golden word, no, right? So that is another option to avoid this kind of backlog hogwash. Having said that, I'll move on to my second smell, which is feature obsession. And the tagline here is, too much of anything is good for nothing. And I'm going to take you to a mouth-watery photograph here. I think you can you can sense the smell of South Indian thali lunch here. A bit of story. Whenever I go for lunch with my non-Indian friends and we order the South Indian thali, every time a question that has been asked to me is, "Hey Ram, this looks so complex and confusing to me. How should I eat this?" Right? And for a moment, I become a tutor, taking them some lessons on how to eat lunch, how to eat a food. I mean, I feel glad about doing it anyways, but it's happened consistently. When I kind of explain them, okay, this is your rice, which gives you a carbohydrate, and you have your sambar that you need to eat first, which gives you a protein, and some vegetables with the sambar that gives you vitamins or nutrients, and then you go with your rasam. And before that, I say like maybe you should have 50 to 60% of the rice mixed with sambar before you go on to rasam, right? And with rasam, it speeds up the metabolism, removes some toxins, and eases the digestion. Then curd is more in terms of makes you to feel full so that you don't eat more. And again, it's good for digestion, bones, for bones as well, right? So you can see a complete wholesome nutrition here, with like a split of like 60%, 20%, 30%, or 10% across these 3-course meal. Okay, but why I'm telling that here now? I think you would have guessed it, right? It's about your product backlog. I've seen when you go for a transformation, this product backlog contains only of features everywhere, and you don't see any non-feature items into your product backlog item, right? And even if these non-features are present, one thing I've seen is the estimates are not present. Obviously, the estimates are not present. It is going to impact the transparency. The product owner might not have an answer when some stakeholder asks, when is that we are planning to release, right? So the product owner might not have an answer to it, right? So this is one of the smell that I've seen in most of the engagements, right? And what is the impact to this? What is the impact? It creates a stagnating velocity, team velocity. The team might be working on defects or technical refactoring, whatever it is, but you don't find that accounted for, right? They will not add this as a part of the product backlog. The typical example is team wanted to pilot this Jenkins, right? They want to move to Jenkins, so it needs a bit of effort to do the analysis and do some kind of it takes a whole lot of effort to do that, but it's not accounted. team wants to pilot BDD, so they need to install Cucumber, they need to do some learning, but it's not accounted anywhere. They just focus only on the features, and they don't. So this creates a stagnation in team velocity. And focusing only on features alone, even from the product owner perspective, it increases the technical debt, and also drives down the quality. So these are some of the impacts of this particular smell, which is nothing but the feature obsession, having only features in your product backlog. Similar to you have only sambar, only protein, right? So you need to have other ingredients as well. What is the action? I mean, ensures there is a mix of features, maintenance stories, defects, or spikes, or whatever it is. Right? And moving on to the third smell, which is information overload. You can see the tagline, which is less is more. I guess you would have figured out what I'm going to talk next. Okay. So what is this smell is all about? This information smell is like the product backlog items are way too detailed. The acceptance criteria is having a huge list. I mean, there is a huge list of acceptance criteria, and the information that is contained in the product backlog is something that it doesn't offer any negotiation with the team. So you can see that the backlog refinement sessions are dull, silent, more of a one-way communication, where the product owner comes up with this huge list, and then these people, like, I mean, the developers just listen to it and then go and implement it. Sometimes I've seen the other way around. I mean, the developers are demanding the product owner, I need to have a complete list of requirements before I can even get into the product backlog refinement. I mean, the purpose is defeated here, right? So there are so many reasons for it. I can see that the impact is it inhibits the team creativity. I mean, I throw a list of information to the team. Obviously, they are not incentivized to ask any questions, or they are not encouraged to have any meaningful conversation. It puts people into the box. I mean, it like silo. It creates a siloed environment. Yeah, okay, we just listen and then we go from there. And this is something that I found interesting when I did some research around this. Right, I believe people know. I mean, especially people in India knows this Tirukural, which is literature from Tamil, comprising of 1,330 short poems, and that has been categorized into 133 different categories. Each category has got 10 poems. That's how it's 10 times 133 is equal to 1,330. So it's organized in a way that they convey information as how you need to lead your life, starting from your birth until your death, economy, health, everything, right? Written by a poet, Thiruvalluvar. The important thing here is each and every poem is of just 7 words. Exactly 2 lines. The first line is 4 words, and second line is 3 words. Exactly 7 words. When I did this investigation as why it is so organized and well structured, right? Then I figured it out. Like 2000, it was written 2000 years ago. 2000 years ago, there was no Jira or version 1 or Microsoft Word or a printer or a copier machine. So they need to preserve these poems. What they do is these poems are written in palm leaves, and that has been passed on to generation. And when they pass on, it's easy if it is made in a short, subtle, right? So it's easy for people to do a copy from generation to generation. That's why it's very short. Similarly, we don't need to like have a product backlog item which is just 7 words, but at least each and every product backlog item, we don't need to scroll much. I mean, have it in like just one page or 2 pages so that you don't need to scroll much, right? Especially avoid too much of details, specifically from an implementation point of view. Focus on what the customer needs rather than how you are going to implement. Split the backlog items into smaller ones. Last but not the least, use mocks, UIs, prototypes, because people say one picture is equal to 1,000 words, right? So that's something that you can consider. So these are the three smells. I've identified several smells along with Ritesh. I'll pass it on to Ritesh to continue. But these three smells I found it more interesting that I said, Ritesh, I need to do that. Over to you, Ritesh.
Sure, thank you very much. Ram, with your permission, can I probably, grab? I'll probably, start presenting myself so that I can navigate through the
Perfect.
slides. Yeah, thank you very much. All right. Okay.
Here you go. I'll stop sharing.
Yeah, sure. I will. Okay, let me see if I could. All right, let's see if this works. Are you able to see my screen? Because now I don't see the chat window. Is this visible?
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. So the next smell that I want to talk to you about is the story template abuse. Something that you might be very familiar with. Of course, most of the team use it as a way of representing the work. It's a very famous and popular template that came from a company named Connextra. And they popularized it through a conference where we talked about, how as you tell the stories and you elaborate on the work that needs to be done, how it can beautifully be presented and conserved in a format where you describe whom you essentially need to do the work for, who will benefit from this work as a user. I want to, what needs to be done, and why it needs to be done. What capability we are trying to provide for the customer or the user, why we are essentially doing that, and what would the customer achieve out of this functionality. It's a beautiful thought, right? But then you see abuse like this. As a business, I want to add promotions on a website so that I can see promotions on a website. No difference between, what and why you are essentially doing something. Even bigger, as a developer, I want to add two-factor authentication so that there is two-factor authentication. As a tester, I want to test the build so that there are no bugs. As a user, I want to have login page so that I see my account details. And the best of all that I have seen, as an application, I want to be migrated to the cloud so that I can fulfill organization strategy of cloud transformation. These are very specific smells that tell you a lot, that essentially tell you that you need to probe, because the smells tells you there are essentially something wrong in the way team is thinking and doing work. Maybe these are written stories, not told or conversed stories. In my own experience, when I probe such stories, I see these kind of smells, or what I discover is lack of customer centricity, unclear goals. Team probably does not know why we are doing what we are doing. They are largely a feature factory where the product owners write the stories, which are essentially coming over from the product management. These are the 100 things that we need to do. Oh, we need to be agile, right? So you must write a user story. Okay, convert all the requirements in the format of a user story where your I want, and so that essentially has the same thing. Your user, oh, who's the user? Oh, these are the features that we need to do. So the user. All right, I'll just go with the user. I don't know who is. I have no idea of the personas. I am probably not thinking about the needs, and the goals are essentially not known. So its work has to be done, so it will be done. How does it matter what is in the story? But then that was never the idea of using a user story. The user stories were meant to be cards. You probably have one-line statement of what you think needs to be done to solve a customer pain point or a need or an idea. Conversations between the team members. And based on the conversations, stories being generated. And not just one what, but many. What are the different things that we could do? Not necessarily always have one answer. You are a feature factory when you have one answer, where you essentially say, all right, let us see phase 1, 10 things that we need to do. Let us write it in a user story format because the agile course said so. Those are smells. Those are issues that you see. Those tell you that you're using and abusing the story template. What you need to do, whether you're a Scrum Master, a product owner, a team member, you are a team member, find out why. Why are we doing this? How will this impact the customer or the user? What pain points are we solving? What new capabilities are we enabling? And how will I know whether I succeeded or failed? Because we want to be agile, right? We want to inspect and adapt. We want to learn that way. So how do we essentially measure it? Unless you have those conversations, you are just a feature factory. Look forward and see the learnings from these distinctive techniques that are available in these books from Jeff Patton and Goiko Edzik. Impact mapping is a beautiful technique to be used for feature injection, where you start from the goal, you explore who all this impacts, who all can help you achieve that goal, what needs to be done to enable that goal, and derive the features from there. So you have a direct connection from the customer to the pain point to what you want to do for that pain point, which automatically generates your user stories. Similarly, as you look at the user story mapping and the maps, that gives you a whole backbone to traverse through what are the different feature functionalities that needs to be achieved. Who needs them? What do I need to do? How do I essentially prioritize this? If you're not practicing this and discussing this and having those conversations, what you essentially end up dealing with are rather just executing features. What that takes away from you is application of customer centricity and a way to sort of solve customer problems. You just become a team who is given work, who just completes the works, delivers it, probably in shorter iterations. But are you solving customer issues? Maybe we don't know. So stop abusing a story template and go forward, and in your planning meetings, be it backlog refinement sessions or be it your sprint planning, ask those questions and figure it out together as a team. That's story template abuse for you. Secondly, most common one, what I see, backlog is a timesheet. It's a laundry list for everything. For your meetings, for your phases in product lifecycle, whether you're doing SIT, UAT, prod clone, test environment, dev environment, whatsoever, everything has a task. Admin stuff, who will raise an RFC? Just raise the JIRA. Make release notes, whose responsibility is release note this sprint. Coordinate with the release team. Someone also need to update the rota on the Confluence. And we all do all these meetings. Can we also have the task for all these and allocate time to it? Come on. You are creating a timesheet, not a product backlog. This essentially tells me that maybe this is a micromanagement control and command culture, where people are measured by how busy they are. It might be a fixed price scope contract driven by the client-vendor relationship, because the relationship is based on how busy the vendor is or supplier is in fulfilling client needs. And you essentially have to provide information through your timesheets, where the focus is on resource utilization than the customer value and how you enrich the journey for the customer. whereas there is high level of hierarchy and micromanagement, and the people are judged on all the amount of time they spend on doing their work. Because in this kind of a scenario, it gets harder to distinguish between the valuable work from the non-valuable work. What you need to do, the very first thing, just go back, do the simplest thing possible, and read again the manifesto for agile software development and even Scrum guide. Look forward and see that how not agile we are if we are doing those things. The idea of agility is to establish trust and collaboration, even in a client and vendor relationship, that can be driven through agile-based contract. Look forward, if you are a client, look forward for such contracts where the change is free and money for nothing, option contracts. If you are a vendor, look forward how you can complement the client. Roman said earlier about empathy. It was some great works that came forward from how the stepwise guide of how you sort of look forward and engage with the people who are stakeholders. That's a great learning. Look forward to do that. Empower the team to self-organize in case you are a Scrum Master. That's your duty. Not to focus on those stuff, rather focus on the value delivery work than the time management. Bring focus back to the customer value. And that is backlog as a timesheet. If you smell this, address it immediately. I want to also quickly focus on some sprint backlog smells that we have seen. A headless sprinting, where the sprint backlog is, it has a collection of features and things to do, but it does not have a sprint goal. You all know, you are practicing Scrum, you know the importance of a sprint goal. It reflects the product development strategy and the path that the team plans to take today to serve the customer needs. If there is no sprint goal, there is no path. How does it impact you if you don't have a sprint goal? It ends up in lack of motivation in the team. Because I'm just doing work. What is the mission here? Well, I'll finish my feature, I'll finish my work, I'm getting a monthly salary. That is it. I really have no empathy towards what the customer needs are, but that limits my growth as well, because I can do little about it. I don't probably have that platform to think about how can I improve the product or to complement what the customer needs are, because there is no goal. No sense of accomplishment when there is no goal. And then eventually what it results is that you don't deliver value in a shorter duration. You probably are completing stories and the work, but is it really delivering the value? Are you able to measure it? Even if you're able to measure it, what do you compare it against? You don't have a goal. And in case, I'm sure that some of you would have faced that even when you start a sprint, in the mid-sprint, there would be some items, ad hoc items that would pop in. Oh, you know, we need some more stories to be sort of done. Can we also do it? Or can we replace it with something? Which is fine. You're agile, of course. You welcome, that kind of an adaptability. But then if it is not tied to goal, that fails the whole sprint altogether, because it's just doing work. It is not customer centric again. And if you're replacing one story with another or one work item with another, how do you know that if your sprint is still that valuable? Because you did not have a goal. That way the work just creeps in, and it hurts your velocity, it hurts your long-term motivation. What you do here is, when you do your sprint planning, look forward, set up as the first thing. If you are a team member, a product owner, or a Scrum Master, whatever your role in the team is, ask the team together. So what do we want to achieve in this sprint? What is our goal? And how this product will be different 2 weeks from now, or whatever your release cadence is. What will be the different? Imagine the future, decide your sprint goal. Look forward at the customer pain points. How will those be addressed? Grow that empathy towards the customer. And if your sprint goal customer centric or user centric, maybe you don't really have a goal to look forward to, so the whole idea of agility fails flat. Also, look forward at to recognize how you can serve the customer. Look at the capabilities and the measurements. Specify smart goals which are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time boxed. You would find a very good reference in a Scrum book from Jeff Sutherland and James Copeland, where they talk at length about the importance of the sprint goal. So as you start your next sprint, look forward to discuss the goal first. What are you accomplishing? And then look forward at picking your stories and adding to the sprint to accomplish that goal. Lastly, I want to talk about WIP forever, where everything in your sprint backlog start, but nothing really finishes. And your burn down probably looks like this. We started something, midway we added something, we probably did a few things, but then, who cares? It's the work that sort of and goes on. I'll move everything to the next sprint because after 1 or 2 or 3 sprint, as it go on, it will eventually happen, right? What I noticed and what you might notice as you interact with this, you will see that the team members, when there is WIP forever, the different team members are starting on different stories or tasks together. It's possible that some finish and some may never finish because they never collaborated with each other. There was probably lack of pairing, and maybe the stories or the task were designed in a way that only one person can do, or probably one skill set could do. For instance, your stories are not essentially vertically sliced. Probably they are UI centric. Maybe they are API centric. Maybe they are just development or test centric. That essentially says that you are defining and separating your stages as work item. Of course, it won't get done because you're not looking from front to back. You're just looking at one stage of the work. It would, of course, spill over to next and beyond that until you're ready for release. And that proves that you're not a team. You're just a group of people who are brought together because a team has shared goals and they complement each other. If you see that anywhere in your team or elsewhere, you look forward and find ways to collaborate better. Look at small vertical stories which are customer value centric, not activity or stage centric. I would like to quote David Anderson here: stop starting and start finishing. Apply work in progress limits to your work, to your sprint, to every swim lane of your sprint to look forward how you execute the work, and inculcate a multi-learning culture in the team where developer, tester, BA are in a position to complement each other. If something is lagging, start with one story. See how many people you could distribute into. The most important things to be done. Are you ready for a continuous delivery? Can you do release mid-sprint? Why not? You can. Look forward and achieve that. Look forward for ways where there is better collaboration, because if there are not, all you will get are even isolated and silos even within the sprint. And that's a huge smell. Lastly, as we come close to it, I want to quickly summarize the different smells that we have discussed so far. The backlog wash, where the way the actions that you could take with if you see backlog hogwash is to prune the product and the backlog regularly, focus on aligning with strategy. If you see feature obsession, where you're just looking at probably the features needs to be ignoring the housekeeping, look forward to include it. Your backlog essentially should be a combination of different things, and housekeeping is equally important. So look forward and have a mixed bag of things with looking at different things that you need to do. information overload, avoid upfront details, look at just-in-time planning, and small things are done better. Story template abuse, always start with why. Be focused on the customer value and deliver the value quicker in smaller iteration cycles. Backlog as a timesheet, very strong smell. Empower the team, look forward, and promote self-organization with shared vision. And headless sprinting, make short, measurable goals. Move focus from doing work, just doing work, to generating value. Lastly, WIP forever, where focus to address this, focus on the team collaboration and multi-learning. Again, stop starting and start finishing. So these are, there are many smells that you would probably even see apart from these, and we would love to hear from you. Please share what you essentially different smells and anti-patterns that you have seen in your own experience. And I think we are ready to sort of take more questions with this note that well-pruned backlog is an indicator of an healthy agile team, so keep pruning it. Questions?
I see there is one question, Ritesh. Should all items in sprint backlog align with the sprint goal? May not be practical.
Sorry, Ram, you're not very audible.
What I said
Ram, I
is there is
can.
one.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, Ritesh, one question that has been asked is, should all items in the sprint backlog align with the sprint goal? Is it practically possible?
You try to define your sprint goal first, the most important thing that you want to achieve in the 2 weeks. If you see there are enough items or if there are numerous items that need to be done, you prioritize accordingly. But if you see your capacity allows you to do something more than that, it's good to have. Also, look forward and keep time, some slack time, don't be 100% utilized. Keep your sprint that is a healthy mix of customer deliverables, of housekeeping activities, focus a lot on quality, and leave certain slack time, certain unused capacity that can be used for innovation and for planning. But again, yes, so in short, if there could be items that may not align to the sprint goal, yes, but your priority, of course, is the sprint goal. So if you have a mix of items, your priority would be to finish the stories that relate to your sprint goal first within the sprint before picking the stories that are not totally aligned to your sprint goal.
Good. Nicely answered, Ritesh. Anthony, I hope it answered your question. On the similar lines, one more question is posted in the chat, which says, how can we have a sprint goal in a service-based company where we work on array of work from their service perspectives? So basically, in the service industry, right, it's not the same way as a product company, and we are still trying to have a sprint. So how do we manage that?
Right. I think that requires quite a bit of an collaboration with the client. I have been in numerous relationships, with service-based companies, for instance, with TCS and Infosys, who work for different clients. So in my past companies, I have had strong relationships with those. I think what hurts the collaboration is essentially one-way communication of requirements into the service companies and the teams offshore that these are the things needs to be done. That itself is a one-way communication. It needs to sort of happen from both the ends, where as a service company, we reach out to see that, yes, there are things that we need to be done, and we are happy to sort of help the client. How can we do more? What can we do to help you and to succeed you, with even better things? So it's about probably extending the hand and moving beyond the contract do essentially the collaboration model, which of course I think would take a lot of relationship building with the client. When you, rather than being just client and vendor, you became the partners. I see that as a relationship, in Toyota and its suppliers relationship, where the relationships are essentially based on the very model that, you come, the client goes in, visits what essentially is happening at the vendor's place, looks forwards, sits with the people, shows and tells the people what is required to be done and why it is required to be done, takes the feedback, and then accordingly, they continuously keep on working on their plan to make better products. So the product still belongs to the client, but the clients comes forwards, shares their goals with the vendors so that they can help them better. It's an interest of both. The service industry essentially gets to be good partners with the clients, and clients get much more than what they initially hoped for.
True. That really makes a lot of sense, that we need to work as a partner than just a service provider. That really answers the whole thing in one single line. Yeah, I think that's about it. There was one last question asked, is to, can we maintain a passive backlog, have an active and a passive backlog? I have seen some of them answered that question as well, but if you would want to throw some light on it.
Never heard of it.
So what this yes, we should ideally have just one backlog.
Yeah, I think
True
that
that.
comes from the fact that the product owner is fearful of removing that particular backlog item. So it stems from the fear of the product owner. Oh my God, should I completely delete this or put it in another backlog item made in a confidence or something? So I don't see
So I recall this exercise with a product owner team. Now, this was a huge product with multiple teams, right? And they say, we have like 2,000 items that we essentially need to do. And the prioritization is hard. I have so many items, what I need to do, right? And there are multi-year programs that essentially go on. So what do we do? So we sat together, all right. So he said, shall I show you my backlog? I have a huge backlog. I said, no, let's do this. Take a pen and paper, write down everything that you remember that is on your priority. The person comes up with a list of 20 items. I said, great, that's your backlog. Just throw away your backlog. Because what you need to do is already something that you have written on paper. You already know what your priorities are. If you look at your backlogs, all it is doing from the past is just confusing you. It's like having a wardrobe. You have 100 clothes. And out of those 100 clothes, 50 are those in which you don't fit anymore. And you think daily, one day I will fit in this. Maybe I will do this. Maybe I'll do that. Okay, fair enough. Do you want to put it a goal to do it in the next 3 months? Great, keep it for the 3 months. But be ready to delete it after 3 months because you are still not fit to do it. So yeah, please maintain only one backlog.
All right, I think I'll just request all the participants to please go to the polls and select this session and vote on how you like this session.
One point on the polls, team, you just see multiple polls. Go down, scroll down. You'll see the poll for the backlog smells is the last one in the polls. So make sure you're voting for the right.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Ritesh, Ramohan, it was really a very, very insightful session. We really learned a lot of things. Interesting smells.
Yes. Thank you very much for having us.
Yeah, thanks for the wonderful
opportunity. Thank you for your time. Yeah.
Right.
Thank you. That we will wind up the session. Thanks all for joining, and thanks very much to both Ritesh and Ram.
Thank you.
Okay.